It went up to the cloud.
You can't get it down from the cloud?
Nobody understands the cloud. It's a mystery.
The cloud is a mystery. I love this, right? This has nothing to do with my presentation. I just thought I'd put it in here because I absolutely love it. But the cloud a year ago, who understood the cloud, right? Raise a hand so you understand the cloud. But even today, the cloud is still a bit of a mystery. And quite frankly, big data is a bit of a mystery as well. There's a lot of buzz around big data at the moment. It's in the news everywhere. IBM joins the Ebola fight with big data. It's in Forbes almost every day. Where am I pointing this, by the way? This way, okay. Your government's looking at big data. Big data arrival in sports, changing the rules of the game. By the way, I'm going to look back here because I can't see this. I don't have my glasses on. Who saw Moneyball? Right? This is Moneyball. Big data changing the rules of the game in sports. What was the guy's name? Anyone know? Jonah Hill. He was just a data analyst, right? Looking at big data to do something in his industry that was different. And that's what we're experiencing today. I'm going to read a quick statistic. On October 28th, Forbes published an article on the internet titled Big Data Taking Industries by Storm. There they reference that 84% of enterprises see big data changing their industries in the next year. 84% of enterprises. That's huge. That's a disruption. That's unheard of. And so, what is big data? What is this mystery? Now, I have a completely different definition of big data, I'm sure, than most of you in the audience. I'm just going to go ahead and read this verbatim. Big data, in my opinion, is a collection of data sets so large and complex that it becomes difficult to process using on-hand database management tools or traditional data processing applications. Okay, it's a little different than what you probably think of big data. But there's a reason for this, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation. So let me just give you a little bit about my background. My career started in the travel industry. So travel is inherently big data. It's high volume transactional information. Part and parcel to travel, believe it or not, is the payment card space. So Visa, MasterCard, even American Express has their own travel company because they want that spend. There's a huge amount of money in travel. And then part and parcel to the payment card space is the luxury lifestyle space. Visa, MasterCard, they're all buying for those dollars for that affluent lifestyle. And then currently, I'm the technology strategist for Avetta Inc. And I have kind of an interesting job. I get to learn a little bit about an awful lot of industries being a strategist. And so it served me really well. But, big data's been around for a long time. It's currently a buzz, but it's been around for a long time. In travel, we used to wrap metadata around everything. So we used to cube off information. We used to create data marts. And in the credit card space, whether you know it or not, we capture something called MCC data, which is merchant category codes. So for example, if you're flying to San Francisco and you book that on your credit card, I know you spent on travel. And if you went out and had dinner at a restaurant, I know that was a dining purchase. And so I've captured information about you. And credit card companies have been doing this for a very, very, very long time. And of course, they want to capture information about that luxury lifestyle market. The affluent, the people who spend money are people who the credit card companies are very, very interested in. So they're always trying to wrap data around that. So all this information was great to be captured way back when. And it was really, really good to help understanding possible long-term trends, but overall, it just wasn't practical to pull this information out of these computer systems. It was like filling up a huge lake or having an ocean full of data, but only being able to take out droplets of water at a time may be enough to fill up a glass. Again, not very practical. So what's changed? What makes big data? Well, everything's changed, right? I mean, look at the environment we're in today. If you look at the technology changes that have happened over the course of the last few years, what innovations to technology make big data possible? How many people run virtualization infrastructures? How many businesses are running virtual servers? A handful, right? And virtual servers are part of the things that make big data possible. It's about parallel processing. It's about distributing your resources among several servers. Also, storage has become much faster and much, much cheaper. Now I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but back in the 80s, for a gigabyte worth of data, you would spend over $400,000 just for 1 gigabyte. To be exact, $437,500 per gigabyte in 1998. As of 2013, it's 5 cents. 5 cents per gigabyte. That's tremendous. And of course, cloud services, right? How many small businesses out here? Quite a few, I think. Right, small businesses. Cloud infrastructure has given small businesses the ability to behave like an enterprise at a fraction of the cost. And so these are the tools that make big data possible. And of course, database technologies, which I won't get into. People are familiar with SQL or NoSQL, which is some of the newer trending technologies. But now, with all this information, with all these changes in technology, instead of being able to take droplets of water out of the lake, you can pour water out of the lake. And so technology has made big data a possibility, whereas back in the day, it was cool and trendy, but not very practical. So big data is disrupting our industries. Big data won't only change the way we live, but it will disrupt our entire life experience online and off. So think iTunes, right? And you probably don't think about it that much anymore because you've just incorporated these things into your life. iTunes took over and disrupted an entire industry. Music, now video, your apps. It's just a way of life now. And I love this one. After all, we will find what they want us to find, no? So I was browsing for a trip to Costa Rica. My girlfriend and I were traveling, or going to be traveling, on Thanksgiving to Costa Rica. And I'm doing what everyone else would do in this audience, going to Orbitz, going to Expedia. And lo and behold, on my Facebook, what do I find an hour later? I find CostaRicaVacations.com. And it's right there in my Facebook. They will find what they want us to find. And that's because they're able to query that information using big data. And so we're entering this era of mobile everything. And so our ability to access and contribute real-time information to and from the cloud is forcing us into a mobile everything era. And it's because of some of the things that you've heard earlier today. It's about individualized data. It's about the wearables. It's the cloud. It's smart sensors. I call them instruments because not only are they measuring things that are on you and me, but they're measuring things about the environment, similar to a thermometer. It's an instrument. It's not necessarily a device. So I call them instruments. A colleague of mine asked me to join him with his client and really understand what his client's needs are. And I use this as an example because I think it's kind of cool. The client has a technology where they monitored the elderly. So I'm actually looking out at the audience, and some of you probably don't have parents as old as I do, but they're getting at an age where if they were going into a condo by themselves or living by themselves, I would kind of want them monitored. And so this company does that. They put devices all throughout the house, including a wearable on your elderly parent, and they're monitoring things like temperature and humidity, how many times they come in and out of a room, motion, how many times they open the refrigerator, and they're gathering all this information and collecting data through these instruments, right? And so it's really, really interesting that a company collecting all this data is putting themselves in a very unique position because with the amount of data they can collect, on this particular population of individual, they can be the de facto standard of information on that population going forward using big data. So my mom is 69 years old, and this is a very interesting segue, but she still uses social media. My dad is 72, still uses social media. He's on Facebook all the time. And so I'd like to say that with the information from social media and the information from an instrumented, interconnected world, it is the perfect storm for big data. You've got information coming out of the social world, information in the real world, and right now we have an opportunity like we've never had before. But at the same time, we have a huge challenge. And that challenge is the rapid growth of data. And we're going to have mass amounts of information that we have to handle. CSC says that there's a 43,000% increase in annual data generation by 2020. That's massive, right? More than 1/3 of the data produced will live in or pass through the cloud. And then now we're on the zettabyte. I just got familiar with terabyte. I don't know about you guys, but things are changing really quick. Data produced will be 44 times greater in 2020 than it was in 2009. Now, I personally believe that there will be an over-reliance on technology, and that with all this personal data we're putting out on the internet, I don't know if I believe some of these statistics. And I think we also need to do a better job at enabling consumer privacy and property rights on the internet. So, though I think these could trend to be true, I don't think they will be, because I do think we need to do a better job at preserving our rights. And we're entering a new world of data analytics, and it's revealing really interesting insights. So did you know that the new Airbus 380 is instrumented with thousands of sensors and a billion lines of code that collect data on just its engines alone, to the tune of 10,000 terabytes every 30 minutes. That's a lot of data. And let me put it in perspective for you, actually. If you took that plane from JFK to London Heathrow, that flight would generate 640 terabytes on the single segment alone. So now multiply that by the number of flights per day, the number of segments per day, so on and so forth. And if you're a database person in the audience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's a lot of information. And God forbid that plane goes down, someone's going to want that information. It's probably not used today. Excuse me. Oh, I'm missing a slide. So what do you do with all this data? Well, I have 4 points. They're actually noted here on the slide. As a business, here are the steps I believe you should take. You should integrate and understand your information. You should analyze and discover this information. You should act as a business and optimize that information. And then you should execute and deliver. And I think that's really important, the execute and deliver, because you really want to understand your customer. And being able to understand your customer means to be able to socialize your brand. So right now, in today's ecosystem, everybody has a voice because everybody's carrying a device. And you have an opportunity to resonate with your customer by delivering a message that will make them be an evangelist for your company. So it's a great opportunity, but it's also a huge risk, because once you embark in that ecosystem, you've really got to resonate with your customer. And so you presume, understanding your customer's data will presumably help you understand them. And so I think this is kind of the moral of the story, right? This is what most people believe that big data is all about. It's, are you listening? Are you listening to your customers? Are you collecting enough information and analyzing enough information about your customer to really hear what they're trying to tell you? As business leaders, you should be listening for ways to connect and engage with your customer And the Internet of Things gives you countless ways to listen to them. And with that, you should be innovating. And by that, I mean you should stop saying big data and start meaning it. Get serious about leveraging the digital breadcrumb trail that your customers are leaving you. This is what you need to do. And so with that, I'm going to leave you with a couple of tips. Your first tip is if you have the ability in your business, grant unlimited access to your data. Create a data lake for your employees. You're going to be absolutely shocked at what they can give back to you, what they can make out of this information. Hello. Thank you. Tip number 2, identify easy wins, right? Easy information, demographic, psychographic data. There's a new vernacular, firmographic information about your customer. These are really easy wins. This is a really easy way to query and generate information about your customer using big data. Tip number 3, think broad. Identify all the data you have access to and explore the possibilities in the audiences. But take it even further. As an organization, not only look at the data you have, but look at the data you want and how you're able to produce it. A lot of the times when people come to our company and ask us to look at and architect a solution for the internet, we not only look at the things that their customers are doing, but also what they're not doing. And so that's just as important in my opinion. So you really have to think through some of this stuff. Automation around big data. Automation is key. It's one of the things that makes big data really, really practical. Have algorithms, have a plan to generate information about your customer and the data that you want. And then tip number 5, incorporate machine learning into this. And what I mean by that is when you automate and you get feedback from that automation, take that feedback and incorporate it back into the cycle, into the algorithm. And so what's next? I think there's going to be a big data twist. I think we're looking at the next era big data will become thick data, right? Companies are going to realize and rely too much on the numbers, graphs, factoids of big data, insulating themselves from the rich quantitative reality of their customers' everyday life. They can lose the ability to imagine how the world and their own businesses might be evolving. By outsourcing or thinking to big data, our ability to make sense of the world by careful observation begins to wither, just as you miss the feel and texture of a new city by navigating with just the help of GPS. So thick data will allow us to evolve past big data. And then, of course, the Internet of Things will continue to grow. We'll have accompanying instruments, and we'll be able to collect and distribute all types of ancillary data given that. Anyway, that's all I have. Follow me on Twitter, and thanks for your time.